yeah, I think you got to have Starr, you got to have Brady, you got to have Montana, and you could go on from there. I have a list where I've done a top 10 and I've written out the whole thing, and
Yeah,
um,
I
yeah,
think you can make an
we
argument.
have to edit out Cobra.
No, we're not editing out anything. This is the full on downtown Rams, uh, you know, unedited. But no, I don't want to make it sound like I don't care about editing. But no, we're keeping that in, definitely. Hey, you should have heard. I don't know if you
All right,
heard the previous podcast with Charles Davis, but him and I just were talking NFL. It got to the point I was like, my listeners love Charles Davis, so they're just going to be okay with it. Because, I mean, we were just talking about the Broncos in depth at one point. But yeah, to switch gears over to the Rams, training camp has started. Overall thoughts, Joe? Because I got to say, I have a lot, but one that's just smacking me upside the head, Ryan Davis. Like, this guy just appeared on the Rams roster. July 24th, he was signed to the Rams, okay? This guy just appeared on the roster. They made no, announcement of it on social media or anything like that. All of a sudden, he's on that list that you tweeted out. He's on the depth chart or whatever. He's on the roster list. And now he has literally had first team reps. And today Matt Longacre, we're recording this on a now it's a Thursday, Thursday in the AM. But we just had Matt Longacre leave practice, and people aren't sure why. And the back injury could be flaring up and all that. So, Joe, this Ryan Davis guy. Before we get into anything, like, where did he come from? Because you were in camp. I'm not out there, so I don't know anything about him. How has he looked?
The day that he was the first day of hitting, he was there and he was getting reps. And when they were talking about Longacre today, or I should say Wednesday, McVay brings him up first, so he's in the rotation. I mean, this is somebody who's playing for reps. Sean McVay today was asked about the outside linebacker position, and he brings up they talked about Ellenbogen, and they mentioned Longacre leaves practice, and the first name that comes out of coach's mouth after that is Ryan Davis, saying that he's somebody that had success in the league in Buffalo and Jacksonville, and so he's really shown up. So maybe there's we were thinking about maybe they'd get a veteran, somebody that at least has been around the block once or twice, that they could kind of trust until some of these rookies popped. And I do really think that some of these rookies are going to contribute, especially as the year moves on. I really like Micah Kaiser eventually. Justin Lawler's obviously shown out. Some of those other, we'll see what Obo looks like when he finally gets on the field, hopefully later in training camp.
My guy JFM.
Yeah, well, he's playing. I had him as playing the Donald spot on the D line that day during so he might be playing with his hand on the ground a little bit. They might be moving him around, but he's going to contribute. I think out of all the rookies, he may be the one that's probably the best bet to help early. But it's really hard when you're talking about guys who are drafted in the third, fourth, fifth rounds or later. It's really hard to really go into a season asking these guys to play any meaningful, because you think about what Ellenbogen did last year, and he obviously had a great rookie year. It wasn't until the midpoint of the season until he was really contributing. So, I think it is nice to have somebody like Davis who's played in this league, and the kid they got from Kansas City,
Ramik Wilson,
the Georgia linebacker, Ramik. I mean, I think those are two very astute signings to get some vets who have played in this league, get them in there a little bit so they can steady the ship a little bit and just not get blown up at those positions until, mid-October into November. I think that's important.
And they cost like literally nothing. I mean, if you really think about it, like how much do
Yeah,
they get, Wilson for? What, like the veteran minimum? I mean, this is somebody
yeah,
that
they're
really
all the minimums. Yeah.
emerged in 2016, and then 2017 he kind of fell out of favor, and that happens. I mean, there's some guys that just fall off the face of the earth. I don't think that's the case with Ramik. I think, Ramik is. I honestly, I think he's very versatile. I saw the way he was able. I saw a couple of videos, Joe, and I like the way he was able to cover Tyler Higbee, up the seam. I mean, he was running right with him. I think he's made a couple plays from what I seen. He's made a couple of nice plays in camp, and I think that's the guy that they look at. Somebody like Bryce Hager. I think he has a chance to get some reps if a Mark Barron goes out. But
Yeah.
By bringing in Ramik Wilson, I think he really hurts Bryce Hager's chances. I think he hurts a lot of these guys' chances. But I don't think he necessarily knocks people off the roster. I personally don't see a reason why you would cut any of the linebackers on this roster, the inside backers.
So
You could keep all
Ramik
of
got a
them.
little. So Ramik got a little bit more money than Ron Davis. Davis got the vet minimum. Ramik got a little bit more. I think inside backer, I don't think you really have to worry about, because I think it's pretty obvious that Littleton and Barron are going to be your starting group, and they're both going to be fine. They're both, Corey Littleton, you can kind of get excited about a little bit, I think.
Oh yeah.
And then if there's a problem with Barron, Littleton can slide over to the Mo, and you could play Ramik, or I do think Bryce Hager in the small amount of reps that he's gotten at those inside linebacker spots, he's done a good job. Like, I think that he gives you a baseline. You're gonna have an okay production level at that Mike spot, just because Bryce Hager you could trust to not get you beat at that position. I think he makes the team, and I think he's a decent part of it. Same with Ramik. I like that. I think the real question is going to be outside backer, especially if this Longacre injury lingers. If he's not able to come back, and he's coming off back surgery. If he's not able, I talked to him the other day, and he said during the off season there was a point where he wasn't quite sure he was going to be able to make it back. So it was a blessing for him to be on the field and be there in pads the first day of padded practices, because there was a point not too previously that he was afraid that he wasn't going to be back out on the field. So that could go. It was good that he was out there then, but if he tweaks it, or if he's slow to find his form, and Obo's foot injury lingers, that could be an issue. The outside linebacker to me is the biggest worry, certainly on the defense. And let's see, is it the biggest worry on the team for me? Probably. And that's more because of Longacre's back injury. If Longacre was fully healthy, I'd be okay with him making that step forward, going from a really good reserve to a pretty good starter. But, if that injury lingers and you got to play a rookie out there, it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
At least the first couple months.
It's hot, Joe. It's tough because you saw what happened with Robert Quinn. I mean, the back injury wiped him out of. I mean, he was an elite pass rusher that no doubt was a franchise cornerstone. On the edge, and then he goes from that to just 8 sacks, 10 sacks, and that's just like you get 10.5 out of him, and you're like, wow, that was a good year. Like, I'll take that. That's not what Robert Quinn was. He was supposed to be like a, Cameron Wake, type of player. When Cameron Wake was in his prime, or the way Olivier Vernon was when he got signed, and somebody like honestly just you thought about him like how you think about like Robert Mathis, who oddly enough won the Defensive Player of the Year over him. just guys like that. I mean, I'm not saying like Von Miller's a different animal, but I think he was in that tier at one point, and you saw the
Yeah.
back injury rob him. And then I'll go further and I'll say, there was a Super Bowl winning quarterback that, was asked if he was elite, and he said yes, and everyone lost their mind. And his back injury has kind of derailed him into really nothing. To put it, bluntly, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I knew you were talking about.
To me, Joe Flacco didn't just forget how to play quarterback, overnight. Something is clearly wrong. And, I mean, albeit he tore his LCL, MCL, PCL, and ACL, I think, all at the same play against the Rams when I think it was Marshall Yanda that stepped on his foot or something. It was a weird injury against the Rams. It was the one where they still won somehow because Case Keenum fumbled, and he had that concussion and they put him right back in or something. It was that game, but that was a scary game for both sides. But my point is, these guys it's happened to. Who's to say, if Longacre gets hit with this? I mean, Longacre was somebody that, I like Longacre a lot. He's somebody that he was going to possibly become something. He's growing. He had 5.5 sacks last year. He put a lot of pressure as a rotational edge guy on the quarterback. But the problem is this isn't, Longacre isn't great. He's solid. I wouldn't call him great. So, great guys, if they're falling off to average, or Joe Flacco's going from good to bad, where does Longacre go? If this back injury. And honestly, furthermore, that's why I think one of the biggest takeaways of camp so far is thank God for Greg Zuerlein. Greg Zuerlein's a miracle worker. This dude had a back injury, and he's a kicker. Kickers get shut down for a year, normally when that stuff happens. And
he had a 63-yarder in training camp today. He looks like himself.
And
that's surprising me.
I just don't think people understand. Having Greg Zuerlein is another weapon. So, you talk about getting Brandon Cooks. You're hoping that any of these tight ends, if they break out, I mean, as I tweeted out, I just don't see how you can stop this offense because what they were able to do without, a star tight end. But
yeah,
Greg
you're
Zuerlein,
the same guy who's talking about all three receivers going for 1,000 is it 1,007, 1,005? What's the number there?
for.
Hey, Jay, let me speak for everyone. You got to cool it with that crap, dude. There's only one ball to go around.
No,
we should make a bet. I should not money, but we should make sort of bet.
There'll be 3 receivers over 1,000 yards.
If Gurley gets there,
Goff is going to channel his inner Magic Johnson because he's in LA. He's gonna spread that ball around. He's already done a nice job of that. But
they have tight ends this year, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm just that'll add to it. I think I think the key though
is a limb. That is a limb my boy is just chilling on. That'd be amazing.
I know. Well, hey, I got 11-5 right. I got Sean McVay right. Can you really doubt me at this point?
No, I mean, you say 3. 3. I'll say this: they're probably more likely if they're going to have 3,000-yard receivers, then they're going to be pretty darn close to having 4. Because I guess my crazy prediction is I think Gurley may get close to 1,000 yards receiving.
I don't think that's crazy though. I mean, I think he would have done it last year if they didn't hold him out of so many quarters. I mean, the Rams.
There were so many times they couldn't. This is the thing about Gurley last year. I remember in the middle of the year last year, people asked me, how come Gurley's not getting any touches? Because they needed a pass blocker.
Yeah. It's true.
So, there was times they were slowing the roll there with Katad and waiting for the big games to unleash him because they didn't want to burn him. They didn't want to get him hurt. I mean, this is why I continue, Aaron Donald's the most unique player in football. He certainly is good to deserve whatever money he's eventually going to get.